Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have a birthday card to share with you with some greens. So first of all, I am using the friendship goals from my favorite things. I had this stamp set for a while now and I haven't used it so far and I was really ashamed by it. So today I'm fixing that. I'm making a birthday card. First of all, I decided to start with this image. That was my starting point on this card. And I also wanted to use the color green, so two starting points. And as I always try to do, I'm starting with the skin and then the hair. These two parts of these images I find the hardest. Whenever I am coloring people, I tend to try to start with those two, just to prevent that I have put all the effort in to color everything and then fail when it comes to the hair or the skin. In this case, if it wouldn't work out, I can just start over without having put in all the effort on all the other elements. So that's why I find it smart. It's not always fun, but it's a smart way to go. So I'm coloring from darkest to lightest. That's how I roll. But anything works. There are so many ways to use your Copic markers or any alcohol markers, many ways to color your images with them. So definitely do what you feel comfortable with and what gives you the end result that you like. Now for the hair, it's something that I already said in many videos, so I'm sorry if you already heard it. But if you're like me and people scare you, I know you might be, if you're new, then this might be a shock. But I was one of those crafters that didn't color people until last year just because they scared me. And I can explain why. First of all, the hair, the way I color it right now, I love that. I love how that looks. And it was something that I wanted to do, but I wasn't comfortable with that. And then my favorite things took on Rochelle Anna Miller in their lovely stems, and later on also Tiddly Inks. And what I must admit here is that both illustrators, and there will be many more out there that I'm not mentioning now, but you know what I mean after this. These illustrators, they already add lines extra in the hair, as you can see all over this. And I sort of see them as guidelines. They already help you to show, well, they show you in what kind of form or shape or in what direction you need to flick with your markers to get this end result. And just because those lines are there, if you follow them, then the flow of the hair looks really natural. And I love that about these two illustrators and many more. I'm sure of it, but I'm not using them so far. I'm not aware of their stems, or I don't have them in my craft room. But definitely, if you're like me and this scares you and you want to color hair like this, find an illustrator or a stamp where you have these guidelines that help you. And the more you do it, the more confident you will get. And maybe you can tackle those others without the guidelines as well. I'm not there yet. I try to avoid them as much as possible, except when there is when the hair is a tiny part of the image. I can handle that. But if you want something like this, definitely this is not me that is crazy or has done some courses or is super genius in coloring. No, not at all. This is all because of the illustration of the stamps. Truly, you can do this as well. And the first time it might be awkward and it feels weird and you're not completely convinced about it, but the more you do it, I'm sure of it, you will get better in it and you will enjoy coloring hair and people from that moment on. Truly, believe me. So having said that another time now, I am continuing with the cookie. Really simple coloring. I am trying to leave the edge open, not with the darkest color, but with the second darkest, just to have that idea of rounded. There is more towards it. You don't need to do that, but you can always do that. I also have a marker that is a bit filled too much. I refilled my most used brown markers and my grays, and I must admit, although I didn't fill it completely like I found online that it was the measurement to fill it completely, I didn't do it till the max. It's still quite wet. It's handy to not have a dry marker because it helps with the blend, but well, on the other side, although I didn't fill it completely, it also acts like it's just filled too much. And that's annoying me because I need to watch out that I don't have any leaks from my marker. A tip that I got from you guys, and it's really handy, is to open the other cap. So if you also refilled your marker, it's a tip that I got from some of you, and thank you for that. I like to share. So therefore, if you have that, you can open the other tip. Now in my case, I tried it on some markers. They're just they're overreacting. Just they're being over dramatic, and they are still leaking. But that's just my issue now. But I definitely see a difference. So it works, but it doesn't do the trick on all the markers that I refilled. So I don't know what I will do next time that I have the intention to refill some markers. I don't know. So here I did my green combination, and the green combination here on the dress and the shoes will lead towards my background combination. So I tried to sort of mimic the shoes that I have and the dress, and I came up with these 4 distressings. Now I have a panel here. The shortest side is perfect for a mini slimline. My mini slimlines are 3.5 inch by 6.25 inch, so this is 3.5 inch. Now the length is way longer. I will trim it off later on, but I cannot trim things myself completely straight. There is always an issue with measurements. Sometimes it's a millimeter, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's just crooked. So I just tend to trim it to one of the measurements that I need, and then the other side I will trim off when I added it to my card. Well, it depends a bit, but it's normally how I work. Now for the sentiment, I wanted a happy birthday sentiment or something like that. And well, I searched in several stamps, and I also saw the sweet day from this stamp set. And in the end, I ended up with the beautiful birthday girl. There was a gorgeous sentiment in it that I really wanted to use. So here I'm trimming off the other measurements just because I first intended to add the sentiment on the top in the green, white, heat embossed, and then I thought, well, I can use it on the bottom for some grounding sort of. But then I needed to know where I could place it, so that's why I trimmed it to size. I'm gonna stamp out the sentiment with black, same ink as I used for the girl, the Gina K Designs Amalgam ink Obsidian. I'm making sure that I have a good impression, and then I will continue with some extra ideas that I got along the way. I decided that I wanted to add some more cookies, so I heat set my background to make sure that the green was dry. I tested it out because I wanted to do some white heat embossing, and everything was fine. So I prepped my paper again to be sure. Went a bit overboard here. No issues. Better to add too much than to not have enough. So just did that. I removed the excess anti-static powder that I had, and then I'm going to stamp that cookie from the stamp set using some Versamark. Now I am really bad with free-handedly stamping things, and you will see there are some cookies that aren't complete. Yeah, I'm just like that. I cannot do it. I really need a MISTI, but for something like this, I'm randomly stamping tiny images. It's a bit, well, time consuming to take your MISTI, but it's not perfect. I need to practice this more. But yeah. So I randomly stamped some of these cookies on the green part of my background, because on the white you wouldn't see it very much. And once I added the embossing powder and made sure that there wasn't any excess embossing powder, I heat set everything using my heat gun. And then everything is prepped, ready to go, and we can assemble the card. So let's heat set this. If you let your heat gun warm up a bit ahead of time, then that will help you with doing the melting a bit quicker, as well as reducing the amount of warping of your image, of your paper. So having all my stuff here, I'm going to buff off the excess anti-static powder, and I'm going to assemble the card. So first of all, I am using my Tombow MAXI power tape. This way I can add my panel on top of my card base. I prefer using a adhesive roller, just because it's handy, it's quick, it's simple, and then I'm aligning this panel as straight as possible. Now, whenever I have excess things because I trimmed it wrong, a bit crooked or anything like that, I just fix that by trimming off the excess. And once I have that, I am going to add the rest. Now, I decided along the way to add a golden strip on one of the edges. I first thought on adding it to the left side, but then I thought with all the greens that it would be prettier on the side where there was already a lot of color. So I'm adding that using some liquid glue. And then I can make sure that this is aligned right at the edge of my card. And then once it's a bit dry, I can trim off the excess from that. I had a bit of liquid glue. There was wrongly over there, so I just fixed that. And then on the back of this image, I am completely adding thin foam squares to play a bit with dimension, but not too much. So let's first trim off the excess that I have here. Now, while it was drying, apparently it was a bit crooked, so that was annoying, but I fixed it right before adding it under my trimmer, so that everything would be great. Trimmed off the excess, as I said, and then I could add the image and finish it with some final embellishments. So I'm removing the backings, and as you saw me previously laying it down, it will be just above the sentiment, as centered as possible. And then I decided to add some glossy accents to all of the chocolates in the cookie. I thought that was a nice element to add, and for the rest I'm not adding anything more. This is how I didn't envision the cookies in the background, but I really like how it turned out, even with some cookies that aren't complete over there because of my stamping. But I really like the green, and I love how this girl turned out. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you like the end result. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Just leave something down in the comments. I want to thank you all for stopping by, and I wish you an incredible day, and I'll be back soon. Bye!